Hey, what's up guys? Combat Critic here. In this video, I want to give my pick for this upcoming main event of UFC Fight Night, which is Kai Kara France taking on Amir Albazi. Let's get started. If we look at the records of these two guys, starting with Kai, he has 35 fights, he's won 24 and lost 10, and he also has won no contest. If we talk about his 24 wins, 11 of them, or almost you can say 50%, have come via knockout. He has that knockout power, and only 3 have come via sub and 10 have come via decision. If we talk about his 10 losses, 3 have come via knockout, 3 have come via sub, and 4 have come via decision. So he is a striker primarily, and he doesn't really have great jiu-jitsu. Now let's talk about Amir. So he has 17 fights, almost 50% of the fights that Kai has, and he's won 16, lost just one. If we talk about his 16 wins, 5 have come via knockout, 9 have come via submission. So this guy is the opposite of Kai. He is looking for submissions, and 2 have come via decision. If we talk about his one loss, it has come via decision. Now let's talk about some of the physical and career statistics of these two guys. Starting with the height, it is 5'4" for Kai and 5'5" for Amir, so he will have a slight 1-inch height advantage. Now let's talk about the weight. Both these guys are fighting at 125, so I don't think anybody will miss weight. This is a main event on a fight night. Now let's talk about the reach. It is 69 inches for Kai and it is 68 inches for Amir. So even though Kai has a 1-inch height advantage, he will have a slight 1-inch reach advantage. I don't think these height and reach advantages really matter in this fight. If we talk about the stance, both these guys are orthodox stance fighters. If we talk about the age, again both these guys are pretty evenly matched in the age department as well. I don't think anybody has an edge, and age will not be a factor in this fight. Now let's talk about some of the career statistics, starting with the striking numbers. So first up we have the strikes landed per minute. This signifies the number of significant strikes that you land on your opponent per minute on average. That is 4.7 for Kai and it is 3.54 for Amir. So Kai has an advantage here. He is able to land a lot more strikes on his opponents per minute. Striking accuracy is 40% for Kai and it is 43% for Amir. So he will have a slight advantage. However, keep this in mind that these stats are taken from their previous UFC fights, and Amir does not really have a lot of UFC fights, so these stats can be a little off. Now let's talk about the strikes absorbed per minute. This signifies the number of significant strikes that you absorb from your opponent per minute on average. That is 3.57 for Kai and it is 2.47 for Amir. So in this case the lower number is better because you are getting hit less. So the advantage here goes to Amir since he is getting hit a lot lesser than Kai. Striking defense is 64% for Kai and it is 61% for Amir. So again both these guys are pretty even, but a very slight advantage goes to Kai. Overall I think in the striking department they are somewhat evenly matched, but the power advantage clearly goes to Kai. Now let's talk about some of the wrestling, grappling and BJJ statistics. The takedown average is just 0.51 for Kai and it is 2.47. So a huge advantage goes to Amir in the takedown department. Takedown accuracy is 25% for Kai and it is 50% for Amir. So he will have an advantage here as well. Takedown defense is 87 for Kai and this is really high. We saw this in the Askarov fight. And takedown defense is 66% for Amir. So in this case a huge advantage goes to Kai. This is his best statistics when it comes to the wrestling and grappling. Submission average is 0. Kai has never attempted a submission in the UFC and it is 0.8 for Amir, so he will have an advantage here. He is the better grappler, he has the better BJJ. Now let's talk about significant strikes by position. So both these guys, you can either land strikes standing in the clinch or on the ground. So if you talk about standing, 85% of Kai's strikes are in the standing position, 3% are in the clinch and 13% are on the ground. if you talk about Amir, 78% standing, 2% in the clinch, and 21% on the ground. And this is where he has the advantage. He has better ground and pound than Kai Kara France. I'll say if this fight goes to the ground, Amir has the better BJJ as well as the better ground and pound skills, and I think Kai will be in a lot of trouble if he gets taken down. However, his takedown defense of 87% is really good, and that is what I think if he wins the fight, that 87% takedown defense will have a lot of role to play in that. Now let's talk about the significant strikes by target. So 65% of all the strikes that Kai lands are to the head, 13% are to the body, and 22% to the leg. So he really goes to the head and the leg. And if we talk about Amir, 63% to the head, 22% to the body. So he is a body, he likes to go to the body and not so much to the leg as Kai Kara France. Kai Kara is more of a leg kicker, whereas Amir is more of a body puncher. And keep this in mind that these strikes could also be ground and pound strikes, and we know that Amir has the better ground and pound. Because of that, his stats for the body might look a bit inflamed. Now let's talk about some of the previous performances of these two guys. Starting with Kai, in his last fight, he lost to the champion Brandon Moreno via TKO body kick in the third round, and this fight happened in July of last year, so he is taking quite a bit of time off, and coming after almost 11 months. And before that, he beat Askarov via unanimous decision. This was a great fight. A lot of people were picking Askarov to win this fight. However, he beat Askarov, and I think this was a really close fight in my opinion. This fight happened in March of last year, and this was a 3-round fight as well. Before that, he TKO'd Cody Garbrandt in the first round, and Rogerio Bontorin via knockout in the first round, lost to Brandon Royal via submission guillotine choke. So he is susceptible to getting choked out. He beat Tyson Nam via unanimous decision, lost to Brandon Moreno in their first fight via unanimous decision. And before that, he beat Mark De La Rosa and Raulian Paiva via decision, and he beat Elias Garcia again via unanimous decision. So this man has been in the UFC for quite some time. Now let's talk about Amir. He is the newer guy in the UFC. In his last fight, he beat Alessandro Costa via knockout in the third round. Before that, he beat Francis Figueiredo by a submission rear naked choke in the first round itself. Both these fights happened last year, and his last fight was in December, so he is turning around after around a 5-month gap. Before that, if we talk about, he beat Zaglas Zumagulo by unanimous decision in a 3-round fight back in January of 2021, and before that was his UFC debut against Malcolm Gordon. He finished him via triangle choke in the first round back in July of 2022. This was his first fight in the UFC, and if you talk about his fights before that, he beat Ryan Curtis via submission Kimura first round. He lost to Jose Torres via unanimous decision. This is the only loss on his record, and before that he was fighting in Bellator and he was undefeated at the time, 11-0. So overall, I think if we talk about the fight, I think in the striking it is pretty evenly matched, except for the power which goes to Kai Kara France. He has the knockout power. And if you talk about the wrestling, the grappling, I think Amir will do really good. However, the 87% of takedown defense of Kai is something that will give him troubles. However, if he can get past that, I think Amir has the better ground and pound and the submission. I think he'll likely end up finishing Kai, and it has been done before. Brandon Royal finished him via submission. If I have to pick a winner, I'm gonna go with Amir. I think he has more tools in his arsenal to win this fight. Whereas for Kai, he really is a headhunter and he is a striker. If he wins, it's either gonna be by knockout or a decision. Whereas for Amir, he can, win via knockout, and he can also submit you. He can also wrestle you for 3 rounds. I think he gets it done. I expect him to be a favorite in this fight. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I'll see you guys in the next video.